5 Live Formula One.
Hello and welcome to your F1 Checkered Flag review of the Chinese Grand Prix. And to get into everything we've just seen, alongside myself, Harry Benjamin, is the Formula E driver, Sam Bird, and the BBC F1 correspondent, Andrew Benson. We've actually just come out of the commentary box, haven't we, Sam, really? One out by Kimi Antonelli. We witnessed history yesterday in qualifying. History again for Kimi Antonelli. 20 years since the last Italian won a race. Big day for Kimi.
Big day for Kimi. Bad day if you're Giancarlo Fisichella. What a day for Italian motorsport, I've got to say. Ferrari looked like they're back, and Kimi Antonelli winning the race. Absolutely brilliant. And
it looked like he had it well in hand, Andrew. Got a bad start. Well, is it bad to say bad start because everyone they're made to look bad because the Ferraris are just so good?
I think that's it. They lost out to Ferrari at the start again. But he, unlike George Russell, he wasn't as compromised and got into the lead again quite quickly and controlled the race from there, basically. It was a copybook victory, very mature. He's still only a kid, 19 years old. He's only been in Formula One just over a year. He had a very difficult season for his debut year last year. Middle of the season, a big dip, but he seems to have come out of that. And this was very convincing. And it's, suggests that he can push George Russell for the championship. Whether that's realistic is a different question. In his second season, George Russell's a highly accomplished Formula One driver, one of the best in the world. But it's at least sort of hope that there will be a fight for the championship this year, because at the moment only Mercedes are in it.
Yeah, we kind of want that ding dong between them. Do you think we will get that, Sam? Because as Andrew alludes to, look, Kimi's starting his second season in Formula One, and there's been so much chat, hasn't there, over the last year about he, too soon, should have had another year in Formula 2 or been put into a smaller team like Williams, like George Russell was when he first came into Formula One.
Well, he's certainly got the pace, that's for sure, and he's got the potential. He's got that raw talent. Whether or not he's polished enough yet to go wheel to wheel every weekend with George, because I still feel like Kimi, although he's mega fast and can deliver results like today, which was phenomenal, I think he's got a couple of mistakes still in him for the season, whereas you would say that George doesn't. So just purely based on that, I'd say that George has the upper hand.
It was actually a really interesting race weekend across the two Mercedes drivers. Quite hard to make a direct comparison because Russell had a series of problems in qualifying, which meant he wasn't really in the pole fight. In Q3, he only got out for one lap right at the end, was quite compromised on that lap. Still did a really good job to put it second. Turns out as well, though, that Antonelli had his own front wing problem on that run. So no direct comparison in qualifying. And then in the race, it all got a bit complicated because the Ferraris got in the mix. And then Russell, I don't think he'll look back on it and think it was his best race. He lost ground to the Ferraris. Then he was unlucky with the safety car timing in a way because he had to stack behind Antonelli. That cost him ground to Colapinto and Ocon, who took the restart ahead of him. But then he made a really bad restart, a series of mistakes, lacking tyre temperature, it would seem, at this stage. Certainly he complained of no grip, and that dropped him right back, and he never recovered from that. By the time he'd cleared the Ferraris, after like 15 or 20 laps or something, Antonelli was 7 seconds in front, and that was race over. So we got the season to pan out, 20 more races to go. You would have to give it to Russell as he's the very much still the strong favourite for the championship. But, it was about time that Antonelli had a signature weekend, and that was very much what this was.
Yeah, completely agree with what Andrew said there with regards to George Russell. I don't think it was his best weekend. He started free practice so well, looked like he was going to walk the weekend. But then in the race, once he was behind Kimi Antonelli and once everybody double stacked under the safety car and moved back to fourth place, the Ferrari's battling so hard. I don't think he wanted to fully get into that fight, because if you're fighting with two cars in front and you make a mistake, you could potentially take yourself out of the race. So it's like he needed that fight to subside a little bit before then attacking them and getting it right.
Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't have lost the positions in the first place. That's the first thing. There was definitely as a consequence of his poor restart or poor series of corners on the restart. And then I think in hindsight, if he'd wanted to take the fight to Antonelli, then he had to get back past Hamilton and Leclerc straight away. but that was not possible because they were already into their sort of ding-dong fight. And I think what we're seeing with these rules at the moment is there's sort of two phases of fighting. There's either a phase of fighting where they're constantly changing positions in a way that we've never seen in Formula One before, or everything's very static for a long time. And that's what happened in the first 10 laps of the race until the safety car, once the Mercedes drivers had got back into 1 and 2 positions. And then it happened again for a period in that Ferrari-Russell fight, which it sort of stabilised. Nothing looked like it was happening, and then suddenly it went completely crazy. But by that time, Russell hadn't made the move. He was still behind them in 4th place. And that was race over for him.
Well, look, still a big day for Kimi Antonelli, who took victory, and let's hear from him.
Yeah, I'm speechless, to be fair. Such a great result. I achieved one of my dreams, which was to win the to win the race, and then my next one, of course, is to win the World Championship. But the road is still long, and George is super strong, and it's gonna take a lot to beat him. But I'm gonna enjoy as much as possible today because it's a great day.
It's been an incredible journey so far. You've got family with you as well. What does it mean to everyone involved?
No, it's a massive achievement. I'm super happy my dad is with me today because he could assist my first race win, and I'm super happy that he was here. Unfortunately, my mom and my sister couldn't come, but for sure they were watching from home. And yeah, I mean, this win is it's for my whole family, all the boys and girls from Mercedes, back in Brackley and Bridgeford, and then of course all the people. This win is also for myself and to all the people that has been supporting me.
Well done.
Thank you.
A big day for Kimi Antonelli, who was crying in the post-race interviews, wasn't he? Can you take us back to your first big win, Sam? Were the emotions high?
We had to have a really big win, Harry.
No, come on, you're that for that. Come on, they must have been
No. There's been a couple of wins where you're tearful on the podium, where you realise that you've accomplished something pretty big in your career, and yeah, I've been tearful and choked up on a couple of podiums.
So Sao Paulo overtaking Formula E, were you
Sao Paulo, I was a bit tearful on the podium, and then when I won in Monaco in World Series by Renault, Jules Bianchi coming second, and I think we were like 50 seconds ahead of 3rd place, so that was a big win for me at the time. But we work so hard since we were kids in order to achieve these big race wins, and this is as big as they come. To win a Formula One race in your teenage years, wow, yeah, he deserves a couple of tears.
It was very sweet, wasn't it? He started breaking down, the tears were coming, he couldn't talk.
George and Lewis as well, all there. I thought that was quite nice.
Well, I think that was touching for everybody. I mean, Toto Wolff's been talking about that since. You had Peter Bonington on the podium with them. Of course, he was with Hamilton as his engineer for his 12-year stint at Mercedes. Hamilton was up there on the podium too. Hamilton's obviously got quite a lot of fondness for Antonelli because obviously Antonelli's been with Mercedes since he was 11 years old. So he's seen him grow up. And then Russell there as well. Russell and Hamilton, old teammates. It was like this massive, cosy loving on the podium.
Toto Wolff loving every minute.
But very touching to see Antonelli like that. Couldn't tears, and then he couldn't speak, could he? And for a while, and you never, as a Formula One driver, I'm obviously not a Formula One driver, never have been, never would have been, never had the chance to be, never had the ability to even think about.
Yeah.
But you never see them that emotional ever again, really, unless they win a championship. And so it's really lovely to see it, such naked emotion.
It was a real reminder, wasn't it, of sort of that human side of the sport. And as he said on the radio, it was a dream achieved. To get to Formula One is one thing, to win a race is another, amid all of the sort of criticism that he's had over the last year. So great result for Kimi Antonelli. We talked about George a bit already. Finished second, obviously should have been on pole for the race were it not for those problems in qualifying. But I wonder, coming back to our chat about sort of the differing experience levels and where Russell might be feeling in amongst this. We're at the second race of the season, just finished it. He's got a car that can challenge. He's clear of the field. Yes, he'll find himself in these wheel-to-wheel battles, which is great, but maybe eventually he'll work his way through. But where is his mindset going to be at? He's got this young buck next to him, but at long last, he's got the car that can challenge for a championship.
Yeah, he knows that he's championship favourite right now. Anything lower than second every race would be a failure for him right now. I think he's got to be feeling really confident for the rest of the year, to be honest. Okay, he didn't win the race today, but I think that he'll know and understand he's the team leader right now. And Kimi Antonelli's not going to give it to him on a plate, but George should have enough through the remainder of the year.
I think what you saw actually, Harry, today was that championship mentality. I said, he needed to have got past the Ferraris to challenge Antonelli, but obviously getting past the Ferraris is a risk, and some points are better than no points. And he'll be thinking there's a long way to go in this season. There's lots of ebbs and flows. Antonelli's going to hit problems. Russell himself is going to hit problems. He's thinking maximise the possible. He's already thinking, this is my championship to lose effectively, but that will be his mindset, and he won't want to be doing anything that loses it himself. So he's thinking, okay, well, I'll get past the Ferraris eventually. I can live with second place today to Antonelli. I beat him in the sprint when I won, and he was fifth, I think, was it? And so a good weekend all round. But having said that, the champion's mentality is, what are my learnings from this weekend? And he can't be faulted for anything that went wrong in qualifying. He did an exceptional job to put it second on the grid after all those issues that he had through the end of Q2 and into Q3. In the race, something didn't go quite right at the restart, even though he'd been unlucky with having to stack and losing the track position to the two midfield cars. He'll look back on that and think, I could have done a better job there, and I'll move forward from here and try and consolidate this position, because he's now 2 races in, fastest car in the field. They look like they're going to win every race the way things are going at the moment. They probably won't, because that's not the way it happens in Formula 1 generally, but that's the way they're looking. He'll be thinking, right, Japan, next chance, I'm going to win there.
Well, look, second in the race for George Russell, but retains the lead of the championship by 4 points. Let's hear from him.
Intense day. Obviously, race start, Ferrari got the upper hand of us. Safety car restart, they got the upper hand of us. And unfortunately, that was sort of hindered my chances of going for victory. Kimi did a great job, so really well done to him. But Ferrari, once again, 3 races down, 3 races, they've made our life pretty awkward in those opening laps. So at least I'm glad it provided some good entertainment for you.
You touched on it there, Kimi's first win. You've been in those shoes before. A little bit more about what this day will mean to him, and then moving forward as a team to Japan.
It's a day that you remember forever. So a very special moment. Brings back some memories, but it was only a matter of time for him. He's an incredible driver. He's got a huge amount of talent, and I'm sure it's going to be a tight year.
George Russell then leads the championship by 4 points from Kimi Antonelli in second. So another great weekend for Mercedes. Behind them, the 2 Ferraris. We already mentioned what a great battle that was. But it was, right, Sam? Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but second weekend now with these new regulations, back and forth racing. Was it great racing? Was it proof that what we've done with the regulations is working, or was it still a bit Mario Karty? Not sure if that was a real overtake or not.
So I think it's individual. My take on this is, yes, it was real racing. Obviously, the rules have changed this year, which has meant that the kind of racing that we've got in Formula 1 is slightly different. But let's make no mistake about it. Those 2 drivers going wheel to wheel for so many laps was absolutely awesome to watch. And that's what the fans want to see. Lewis Hamilton against Charles Leclerc going wheel to wheel, even touching at some point through turn 2 and turn 3. It was absolutely awesome to watch. And okay, it's because of the boost and the overtake that we've now got in the 2026 rules and regulations that made that racing possible. But so what? It was great. That's what we want to see. We want to see these guys go wheel to wheel. It didn't last for more than 6 or 7 laps, but while it lasted, it was some of the best racing I've seen.
There are several levels to this, Harry, aren't there? I think Sam's absolutely right. It was a great battle between Hamilton and Leclerc, however it came about. And I think the key was that they were doing genuine racing through the corners. They're obviously deploying their battery in different ways at different times. But in a way, that was already happening to a lesser degree in the previous set of regulations. Okay, you still had an overtake button that you could use. You still had battery levels that were going up and down. It just wasn't as extreme as it is now. That was proper wheel-to-wheel racing, and it was 2 of the best drivers in Formula 1 really going at it, giving each other true respect. And I think it says everything that they both got out of the cars at the end and said how much they'd enjoyed it. But there's another level to the racing generally in Formula 1 at the moment. there are a lot of overtakes that are happening, and it happened with the Mercedes drivers passing the Ferrari drivers, and Hamilton referred to it, where it looks like you're in a completely different category because one car's got battery deployment and the other one hasn't, and they drive past them on the straight like the other car's not there. That's one of the levels that people are not happy with. And Fernando Alonso, who tends to have a handy phrase for these sorts of things, called it today the Battery World Championship, which is quite a...
Isn't that what Sam does?
But that phrase, he's really great with a headline, Alonso, but it taps into the wider concerns about this Formula One. And that goes much more deep than the racing itself. It's the fundamentals of the driving of the cars and situations like harvesting energy through fast corners. So fast corners are no longer grip limited. Corners that used to be considered to be the sort of ultimate driver's challenge. A number of the drivers this weekend referred to the S's in Suzuka, which is the next race in two races' time. That's considered the most challenging section of racetrack in the world, anywhere, basically. Because it's so technical. If those corners have been neutered because they're being used for energy harvesting, then I think that's something I would say, my argument would be that that's something that Formula One should think very, very deeply about as to whether that's a good thing or not. And there are a bunch of people in the paddock, many of them are drivers, not just drivers, who feel the same way.
I feel like we're nearly there because look, they didn't just change the engine, they also changed the aero, the chassis. We've got smaller cars. I feel like they're able to follow a bit closer. We've got cars side by side, 3-4 in the midfield. If we're able to make a change where we just maybe, Sam, rely a little bit less on having to harvest as much battery, so we're not seeing the big sort of slowing down in the middle of the straight or big lifts off before a braking zone. If we can just maybe find a way of dialing that down a bit, then are we getting somewhere until the next big regulation cycle in a few years?
You should go to the FIA, Harry, and
Sign
tell
me
them
up.
this. Absolutely. Look, it's all to do with the ratio at the moment. It's a 50-50 split between internal combustion engine and battery power, effectively. Have the FIA got that right for this season? Some will argue, well, it's great, so don't touch it. Others would argue it's probably a little bit too much in favour of electric power. So maybe 60-40 or 55-45 might work a little bit better. But it's also the amount of regenerative braking that they're doing as well, and then how much they can boost as well on corner exits. It's quite complex, this set of rules. We've seen some great racing, and you say that it was closer. Now, at times it was closer, but there were also times in today's race where it really died down, and there were just spread out gaps between everybody where everybody's deployment was kind of similar. So I get what you're saying, and some of the racing was great, but there were some dull points in the race.
The issue's not the 50-50 split itself. It's the 50-50 split combined with the amount of energy harvesting they're able to do. There's not enough recovery in the cars because of the way the car formula has been designed to enable the 50-50 engine split to work without the engines being energy starved. That's the bottom line. They're energy starved. So they're constantly having to look for ways of recovering energy. If there were different ways, so you can fix that in two ways. You can fix it by changing the split with the current levels of recovery, or tweaking degrees of recovery at certain points in the lap. So we could get into the technical complexities of it, but I won't. But they are looking at that, increasing the rate of recovery in certain forms of recovery mode, or by allowing more recovery. But the problem is that the rules were constructed in a way that removed the ability to recover. So, for example, front axle recovery, which you get in Formula E, where Sam races, or in the World Endurance Championship, that was not allowed in Formula One for various reasons. So they sort of kind of tied their own hands around their back, behind their back, and then given themselves ended up having to produce a whole lot of compromises in the car regulations to try to get back that recovery level, but they've not managed it. So they've said that they'll give themselves 2 or 3 races, the Formula One bosses, to have a look at it. It's pretty clear that there's been some positives from these new regulations, and this sort of backwards and forwards yo-yo racing that people have called it, is a good thing in terms of entertainment. But there are also some negatives in terms of the purity of the sport. And that phrase, Battery World Championship, sums it up quite nicely, I think.
Hasn't there always been that issue, though? Because to go back to your point about the lull in the races that we saw, we've had that before, just with DRS trains or dirty air. There's always something.
I think that this current set of regulations has enabled some of the tightest and closest and most fun racing that we've seen in quite some time. Is it pure? Maybe not, but it's fun and exciting. You have to remember, sport is an entertainment business. Is the current rules and regulations entertaining? I'd say yes.
It's all balance, isn't it? So Formula One is a sport, and sport should be entertaining. But it's a sport first and foremost. And that's where people are asking questions philosophically as to where the balance between sport and entertainment is. And I think it's fair to say, when Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, well, not Hamilton so much, but...
Isn't it funny, though, how all the guys who aren't doing that great are the ones sort of complaining the most?
Well, Hamilton's also complained about the areas of the new rules. So again, it's a multifaceted thing. There's the surface. Did I enjoy my scrap for 15 laps with my teammate today? Yes. Do I think it's right that Pouin in Spa, for example, will no longer be a grip-limited corner because I'm recovering energy through it? Definitely no. So when people like Verstappen, Alonso, Hamilton, Norris, etc., are all saying the same thing about the cars, and not just them, but Andrea Stella, the McLaren team principal, has raised these concerns, and I know that they're being considered generally through Formula One as a whole. It's that balance, and at the moment, the purity has been lost to some degree in the pursuit of entertainment, and I don't know how it's going to end up, but there's definitely concerns as to whether they've got the levels of those two things in the appropriate ratio.
But I feel like Formula One is on the right path. It hasn't found the sweet spot, the absolute sweet spot yet, but we could be going towards something absolutely brilliant. Like they need to fine tune it and tweak it a little bit. But so far, after 2 races, I think everybody can say that they're enjoying. They are enjoying it. Like the drivers, okay, yeah, there's a lot to do with regards to especially qualifying. That's the one area that I'd say agree. Needs a big improvement right now. I don't like the fact that drivers are having to coast before braking, for example, but certainly the close quarters racing, that's entertainment.
I agree. As a commentator, as a fan, simple as, I really enjoyed today's race. I think it's one of the better Chinese Grand Prix that we've had in a long time. And I enjoyed the scrap between the two Ferraris the most, and they did give us the most entertainment, Sam. And Lewis Hamilton, to get his first podium for Ferrari at long last. It was obviously a year ago he got the sprint win, but that was the only time he ever made it to any kind of podium last year.
Who would have thought it would have taken this long for a driver so good to take that long to get his first podium? But look, it's happened. It's done. Lewis Hamilton definitely seems like he's back. He looks hungry, focused. He looks happy. We haven't seen him looking happy for a long time. Can you remember back in Hungary? We were out there in Hungary and it was hard to watch. And then for the remainder of last season, I mean, Q1 exits towards the end of the year all the time. And you thought, has his star lost that spark? Well, it's back again. It's brilliant. It's really, really cool.
It is fantastic to see. And the scrap got tight, didn't it, Andrew, between the two Ferraris? We didn't spot it so closely, but Hamilton did say, I think, that there was a little bit of contact, a kiss between the two.
Well, I've heard him say 2 different things.
Oh, yeah.
In one interview, he said he thought they did maybe touch once. And in another interview, he said he didn't think they did.
Okay.
I mean, it was great wheel-to-wheel racing by 2 great racing drivers, and this is the Ferrari scrap that everyone was hoping for when Hamilton went there. Charles Leclerc is an incredible Formula One driver. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton is too. And it's very clear that he's much more at home, Hamilton, in these new cars. This year, he's left behind. Obviously, last year's Ferrari was not a great car on a competitive level anyway. The margin between the two of them was not ever that big really in terms of time, but it was way bigger than Hamilton himself would ever have wanted. But where Ferrari were competitively last year, it often made the difference between Hamilton being out in Q1 and Leclerc getting into the top 10, for example, and ending up qualifying fifth. So it looked really bad, even if the gap between them at the time had only been like 1.5 tenths or something when Hamilton got knocked out. The field spread's bigger now, and Hamilton's much more at home in the cars. And then if they're going to fight like that all season, bring it on. Exactly.
The worry for me with Ferrari is over the past decade, I would say, when they've had a competitive car at the beginning of the season, then the decisions that have been made next, the upgrades that they've made haven't worked, or they haven't gone in the right direction and they've fallen away. We really need to see Ferrari make the right decisions moving forwards this year if they're to challenge Mercedes.
Ferrari hasn't been able to keep up with the development potential of their rivals among the British teams for nearly 20 years now. You know, since 2007, 2008, when they had the best car with Raikkonen and Massa in it, and obviously Raikkonen won in 2007, got a bit lucky that year with McLaren imploding, and then Massa just lost out to Hamilton in 2008. Since then, basically, they've not developed a car through the year in a way that's kept up with the other teams. Maybe 2010 was an exception, but certainly since certainly after 2010, it was a big failing. It was why Alonso ran out of patience with Ferrari and left. It was one of the things that led to Vettel losing those championships in 2017 and 18, which arguably he and the team could have won at least one of those. And then since then, they've just not really been competitive, have they? So they've got a lot to prove. Fred Vasseur, the team principal, has obviously restructured the technical department there. They've had departures. Enrico Cardile, who was the previous technical director, is now at Aston Martin. So a whole new structure in place. But we're yet to see evidence that they're able to keep up. And they've got, you know, the worry for them, as Sam says, they're already, in Hamilton's view, half a second a lap behind the Mercedes in pure race pace potential, and in qualifying for that matter. So you're already starting the year half a second behind, and you've still got to prove yourself that you can develop at the same rate as your rival. Doesn't augur that well, but it's all there for Ferrari to prove that they can turn that around.
Well, it was third place for Lewis Hamilton today. Let's hear from him.
Absolutely mad. It was such a tough battle. It was just so hard out there. It was great fun, like dicing with the cars. I wish that we had a good start, and then I just kept losing the lead. You know, it's really hard to hold the Mercedes off. It was impossible, actually. They were just so quick on the straight. So we've really got to step up so we can. I think the car is good enough. We just need more power on the straights.
That battle with Charles in particular, we just spoke to him. He really enjoyed it. It looked like there was a lot of respect out there between the two of you.
Oh, it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Really enjoyed it. You know, really very, very tight, very close. But yeah, I'm looking forward to more of those.
So Lewis Hamilton then third for Ferrari, ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc, who has rather got a sort of Chinese Grand Prix curse on him. I think he does not like racing here, never been on the podium, and that continues. Before we come on to best of the rest, I think we should actually start or go on to the fact that there were a lot of drivers that actually didn't start the race. So we're seeing in this new era, you know, reliability really starting to rear its head. Didn't get an Alex Albon to take the start of the race, didn't get a Gabriel Bortoletto, and we didn't get a Lando Norris or an Oscar Piastri starting this race. Andrew, at the time, suspected electrical issues preventing them.
Yeah, so what McLaren is saying now is that there were two failures in the same electrical part of the engine, but they were different in nature. Now, that's obviously a Mercedes issue. They use Mercedes engines, and they're going to have to work out what went wrong, Mercedes. But yeah, Norris didn't even make the grid. Piastri did make the grid, but then they couldn't get the car started when he was on the grid, so he was wheeled back through the gap in the pit wall, and that was that for McLaren. It was, you know, depressed. They were obviously not. I think it was quite a depressing scene at McLaren at the end of the race, and so. But there's not really. It's not on McLaren, this one. What's on McLaren is that their car, as they freely admit themselves, is not yet in a position to compete at the front. So they wouldn't have been racing for the win for sure. Maybe they'd have been able to race with the Ferraris. We don't know. That's what their aim is at the moment. They look like they feel like they're in a place where they're sort of clearly third. they're not quick enough to compete with the top two teams, and they're far too quick for anybody else to be a bother to them. But the car's a bit overweight, they admit that. They've got a big development plan for the chassis, and they feel that they're beginning to get on top of understanding how to operate the engine now, which was their big concern after Australia. They didn't understand after the first race why Mercedes were able to exploit so much more of the power unit than they were, given it's the same power unit. They feel they're getting there on that. So there's reason to believe that McLaren can move forward. And unlike Ferrari, for example, the last 2 years particularly, or the last 3 years, the story of McLaren has been consistent development. You know, they made a big leap forward in 2023 to go from the back of the grid to the front of the grid. And since then, they through the last 2 years of the previous set of regulations, they just kept moving forward to the point that no one else could keep up with them effectively. They've started these regulations a little bit on the back foot. So they'll be wanting to prove that they can continue that with this new aerodynamic philosophy.
I mean, what he said, to be honest. But I mean,
well, you remember you put out about Piastri as well. Hasn't started a race.
He hasn't even done one single lap in anger in a race situation this year. I think McLaren will see today as 18 points dropped. So 10 for fifth and 8 for sixth place. That's a lot of points to give up on a race weekend because, as Andrew said, they are a little bit in no man's land. They're not anywhere near as quick as Ferrari, but no one else is as quick as them. So Red Bull are quite a long way back at the moment. I think it would have been a comfortable 5th and 6th places for Lando and for Oscar out here in China. 18 points would have gone nicely to start the season, and they do have a habit of this slow and gradual improvement, as what Andrew says, but a big miss for today for them.
I mean, it's worth saying, isn't it? You know, not a great day for McLaren, of course, but, you know, for Red Bull, I mean, they did get a car across the line in the points, but Max Verstappen retired in the same way that Isaac Hadjar retired in Australia. That was a ERS-related, energy recovery system-related problem for Verstappen today. But even bigger concern for them, that's their new engine, of course, their powertrain manufacturers for the first time this year. Bigger concern for them, I think, was that, you know, in Australia, Hadjar qualified third, and everyone was thinking, well, and Russell himself was saying, well, look, where Max would have been on the, you know, definitely competing with us if Hadjar can be third. Nowhere near. Verstappen's been complaining about no grip, no balance all weekend. It was the same in the race, just no performance basically, and that means the tyres go off quicker. So,
well, I think Verstappen had a difficult race as well. Hadjar had the spin on the opening lap when fending off from Ollie Behrman. Verstappen was the only driver to start on the soft tyres, and the front left basically delaminated itself after about 3 laps. He had to pit much earlier than what he would have wanted. Went onto the hard compound. Then there was the safety car and everybody pitted. So his hard compound tyres were older than everybody else's. Okay, only by a couple of laps, but that's enough. And he just got stuck behind. Who was he stuck behind? By a couple of seconds. He could not.
Gasly and Ocon.
Yeah, he could not get past those two cars. The car looks difficult to drive. Very, very snappy going into turn 1. He's clearly not happy with the car. Yeah, very difficult weekend for him.
Work to do for Red Bull. You mentioned Ollie Behrman there. Best of the rest. 5th place for the Brit. 10 points bad. Another brilliant race for him.
Another brilliant race. I'm a big fan of his, actually. I like the way he goes racing. He's certainly showing that he's got all the talent to be in one of the big teams in a car that can challenge for wins and for world championships. But my question is where? Where does he go? He's clearly got the talent and the pace. But you look at Mercedes, they're taken. Ferrari, they're taken right now. Who's he going to knock out of Ferrari? Lewis, when he leaves? But Lewis might not leave for another 3 or 4 seasons. McLaren are happy with their lineup. Red Bull take Red Bull junior drivers. So where does Ollie Behrman go?
Well, he's Ferrari contracted, Sam, isn't he? So that's the obvious place. I mean, look, we don't know what's going to happen. I think Hamilton's got a contract for this year and next year. That's my understanding. And he's 41. But by the time he's coming up for 43 at the end of next year, and he's earning, 75 million euros, and Ollie Behrman won't be earning 75 million euros, I think you can probably guess that he might be Charles Leclerc's next teammate if Leclerc has not run out of patience with Ferrari by then and moved somewhere else. But that will be my prediction.
And, well, things change quickly in Formula 1, don't they, in the driver market?
But my point is, he's ready now. He's good enough and ready now.
Sometimes you have to wait in Formula 1.
George Russell had to wait. a long time, didn't he, at Williams? And there was talks for years about him needing the promotion. Then eventually he got it at the expense of Valtteri Bottas. But a really good run for Ollie Behrman and Haas. Also worth, actually, the lower end of the top 10, some really good stories. Carlos Sainz managing to get points for Williams in what is a really hard car to drive by the looks of it. Liam Lawson 7th for Racing Bulls. The 2 Alpines in the points. Pierre Gasly 6th and Colapinto rewarded after actually a really good drive today, I thought, with 10th place.
Yeah, solid from Colapinto. Gasly, again, you'd expect that from him to be the team leader, but Colapinto was up there fighting really well, fought hard. He got taken out by Ocon, who actually admitted that the incident at turn 2 was his fault. Came on the radio, said, guys, that was my fault. So fair play to Ocon for that. Got a 10-second stop-and-go penalty for the incident. But Colapinto, to bring it home in the points, well done. And hats off as well to, as you said, Carlos Sainz for what is a challenging Williams car to drive, to bring it home and get some points. Great stuff.
Yeah, and one final point to make is Fernando Alonso has obviously already been mentioned for his headline-grabbing quotes, but there's some quite disturbing in-car footage. He retired the car because of discomfort, Aston Martin said. He was running last, and there's in-car footage of him having to take his hands off the steering wheel on the straight because the vibrations through the wheel from the engine were so bad. This is something that Adrian Newey, the team principal, had mentioned in Australia, Harry, remember on the Thursday when he said that Alonso had said he couldn't drive for more than 25 laps without incurring potential permanent nerve damage. This is the vibrations from the Honda engine. They didn't run long enough in Australia for that to happen. It's obviously they've managed to resolve the reliability issues from the vibration, but the vibration's still there. So a lot of work to do, just underlining that at Aston Martin Honda.
There was also an onboard I saw where Fernando Alonso was getting passed by one of the Cadillacs, and he just waved at them as they went by. So that's the kind of mindset Alonso's clearly in. Double requirement for Aston Martin.
It underlines Honda's plight. So this vibration issue is one thing, and obviously that's a big concern. But he started 17th, was 10th at the end of the first lap, just like he'd been in Australia, and then lap by lap, just going backwards as the cars with better engines, basically, or as he would put it, better batteries, went past him, including the Cadillacs, which qualified a second or more slower than him.
And actually, you should say, so that we've done the top 10, just outside Nico Hulkenberg 11th, Arvid Lindblad 12th, Bottas in the Cadillac 13th ahead of Ocon, and Perez, the last of the finishers in his Cadillac, in 15th. So, 13th and 15th for Cadillac, but they get both cars to the end, which is a good result for them. Retirements, as we said, for Max Verstappen, the 2 Aston Martins, and not starting with the 2 McLarens, Bortoletto and Alex Albon. Can I please get your hero of the race?
My hero of the race, or my driver of the race?
This is our driver of the day, but don't know if you remember the team radio that Fernando Alonso said at a race last year, where I think he called Hadjar in a very sarcastic tone. He's trying to be hero of the race, and I thought, what a great term to use.
So I'm torn because I loved the battle between Leclerc and Hamilton. Part of me wants to give it to Lewis for coming on top in that battle and getting his first Ferrari podium, but it's hard to look past Kimi Antonelli.
Andrew?
What he said.
Yeah, we'll go 3 Antonellis then. Go on. I think he deserves his flowers today.
Can I ask you a question? So,
yes,
the fact that Nico Hulkenberg has yet again finished 11th.
Poor old Hulk.
No, if Nico's not going to be watching this, I don't know why I'm addressing it to Nico, but I've worked with him before, but bless him. Can you now do some research? Because this needs to be investigated. How many qualifyings and races has Nico Hulkenberg come 11th? Because the number...
You want to know the answer. Why don't you do the research? you got the internet.
Time. He's got all the time in the world. It's all Shirtman does.
All right, let's move on swiftly then from that.
Shacket, man.
I will find... They don't like my shacket for some reason.
Anyway. No one said we didn't like it.
Oh, no, maybe they love it. Maybe that's it. They're all just jealous. Anyway, for those who can't see, I'm wearing a shacket. Anyway... so Hulkenberg 11th. I'll do the research.
I didn't even know what they were until last weekend.
Guys, we're way over time, and the producer.
And look how small it is as well.
Please,
it's like made for a child. It's my size. It's like he's borrowed it.
I'll be very annoyed. Right, have to see one.
No, that's making the cut.
One
going to be pulled out. That one, man.
What? Right. One final thing, please, after all of our chat about China and shackets. We do need to discuss something a little bit more serious in Andrew. The fact that over the weekend we have officially had confirmation that we're going to be down 2 races this year. Both Bahrain and Saudi Arabia officially cancelled by Formula One.
I feel like I've been reporting this story for 3 days in a row now.
It has been rather inevitable, hasn't it?
Yeah, maybe that's just the time situation, but time zone situation. But yes, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia have been cancelled, unsurprisingly, in the context of the war in the Middle East. Too dangerous to take 2,000 staff over there when both circuits are within range of missiles. So it's a serious situation, obviously, and it's quite a significant blow for the sport financially. And obviously, in terms of the calendar, it means a 5-week gap between Japan and Miami. No rescheduling of those events, no replacements for those events. It's just force majeure. These things happen from time to time.
Yep, extreme circumstances. But Sam, with that 5-week gap, I suppose that might be quite welcome from the teams, to have a rest, but also to do some crucial development.
Hugely welcome, I think, from the mechanics and engineers' point of view, to get back to base, recharge their batteries. I think for a team like Aston Martin, they'll be delighted that they can go back and try and sort out some of these issues. What can they do in a 5-week gap? Can they sort out some of these vibrations that are coming through the chassis? We don't know, but for sure it will help to get the cars back to base and have a long, hard look at all the data.
All right. Well, look, we are going to be down now to 22 races. So, as you were saying, Andrew, we will be back in a couple of weeks' time for the Japanese Grand Prix. Then we'll have that 5-week gap before we head to Miami. Thank you very much, Sam Bird, for Andrew Benson, for joining me throughout this weekend. Thank you for your company wherever you are in the world. We shall see you in a couple of weeks for Japan. I'm off to buy a new shacket. This has been
Not another one.
This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.